what's making it even worse for King Saul is that his own family, as we read now, has chosen David. So we read about Jonathan falling in love with him to some extent. Again, he found love with him. We have read about how Michal, who was married to David, that's Saul's daughter, she helps him escape from her father, and she's in love with him. It says she's in love with him. We read that last week. She's in love with him, and again, the words that we read about David, which leads some people to believe that David and Jonathan actually had a relationship that was not physical, then definitely more than this is just one line. Another look at David's side of it. But Jonathan has loved David as himself, and it's not even as himself. The Hebrew word is as his own soul. He loved him as his own soul, and that's the word ahava. That's the word for love. We don't have another Hebrew word for romantic love, or for brotherly love or parental love. So that we only have one word, and we don't have many words in English for love if you think about it.
I thought they were just like BFFs. No, seriously, I mean, I had no clue.
Well, they might be BFFs.
We don't know.
Well,
And
I mean,
the problem is that
high school buddy type.
the problem is we don't know.
Yeah.
But people can interpret this very differently. And for a long time, people obviously didn't want to introduce any kind of homosexual level to this. People have felt much more comfortable doing it today. I'm not saying that it has to be done, but people have definitely done it. And there was some sense of it even in the rabbinic texts. Not all of them, but there are some rabbinic texts which basically, leave us to believe that this was a very, very deep love. People have definitely interpreted it today that way. And why not? Because people have interpreted the Bible with their own vision for centuries. And so I don't know I don't think it's incorrect to interpret this the way some people have today, which is that this is a love that is not like just friendship.
It's not platonic.
Yeah, because it's not the words that they were friends. There is a word where if they were brothers or saw each other as brothers, it would say, achiv, it would say saw each other as brothers. It's not what it says here. So I don't know that it's, again, doesn't have to be read that way, but I don't know why someone would be offended by it, other than, again, it goes against their sensibilities of what they feel are proper and accepted relationships.
Rabbi, can you show the Hebrew? I'm just seeing the pandemic.
I have still showed that. Yes, I have not. Sorry.
Thank you.
So now we're at a place where again the Hebrew is that Jonathan loved David as his own soul. So
Close that message. Huh?
oh, Mike's supposed to be higher?
It was a suggestion from the peanut gallery.
Okay, well I can put it up here. So I'm trying to
Yeah, that's better.
use this mic because people said it was better than the lavalier. But anyways, so that's what we read last week, and we read about Michal saving him. After we also read again that Michal, the daughter of Saul, had fallen in love with David. So everyone loves David. Even Saul's own kids love David. Everyone loves David. That's the name of the show.
So is it?
I think he's a little.
Is that kind of close?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I can
I got it. I got it.
No.
So unfortunately, we have to do that once we're live. So record. So everyone loves David, and where we're at today is that David is out there killing other Pharisees, and driving Saul crazy. Saul tries to kill him, not once but twice. Tries to spear him. take a little kebab out of David. And David gets away. David runs out of the house, goes and flees to Samuel. Samuel tries to, protects him. Saul sends people out to get him. Every time he sends 3 groups of people. Every time they come out, they get possessed by God and start speaking in tongues or start speaking they get an ecstasy. They go into a prophetic mode. Even Saul comes after him and then goes himself. And then Saul starts speaking in ecstasy too in Ramah. He takes off his clothes and gets all prophetic, which is, of course, a strange thing for a king to do, but people remembered it. And that's why they said, that is why people say, is Saul too among the prophets? So it's a very interesting scene. This is why when we pick it up today, I need a little bit more recap on this. David and Jonathan, as we left off last time, basically create a situation so that David will protect, Jonathan will protect David and send him a signal if his father Saul is going to come after him. So they set up a signal, and this is where we left off. I told you is the Haftarah that we actually read, the part of the prophets that we read last Saturday, this past Shabbos. Because every time we have a Machar Kodesh, every time we're about to go into a Rosh Kodesh, we read this, which is interesting. This is the interesting part of the whole book. It's the least interesting. It's not a David and Goliath story. It's not even David escaping from underneath Saul's eyes when he calls a mannequin in the bed. This is like the least exciting thing we've heard David do so far.
Connection,
Why? Because it says the words Vayomer lo Yehonatan Machar Chodesh. That tomorrow Saul has a plan. That's their celebration. They'll show you that everyone every time they have a Rosh Chodesh, Saul did that. That was a Jewish tradition that people celebrated every month the holiday. Well, it says in the Torah it's a holiday. But it's not like it's surprising. It's just here we have in the Torah, in the Bible, the story about the fact that people are celebrating the new moon. And they're excited about it. What makes holiday come to life? Not the description. Shall sacrifice 3 goats and 2 goats. It's here's some people celebrating the holiday. And so when we read about how Solomon, for example, celebrates Sukkot, we read that as a Haftarah for Sukkot, because here we have proof that people did it, and here we have, and they didn't do it because they had proof. They knew people did it. But here the holiday comes to life. And so the Haftarah oftentimes the event, right? So you can have the guy, it's like in football, right? You have the play-by-play announcer, and then you have a guy who comes in and tells you a story about it. He's the color commentator, and that's the person who brings this story to life. That's the Haftarah, brings it to life. So this is bringing to life Rosh Chodesh. Again, it's kind of weird because it's the least part of the story of David to some extent. And I said last week, this is my Haftarah because I happen to have had during the month of Av, it happened to be a Mahar Chodesh. And so we began, whatever my Haftarah is supposed to be from the portion you read, which is in Deuteronomy, also not Haftarah from the standpoint of action. It would have been a Haftarah from the book of Isaiah. All these Haftarot in August of Tisha B'Av, the period of reconnecting with God after Tisha B'Av. So I got this one, which is at least about David. It's a little bit of story, but it's not. So it begins by Merlo. That's it. I told you, one line. And then, and so again, it begins with the words that Jonathan said to him, tomorrow will be missed when your seat remains vacant, which is you come to the party or not. So, Rosemary, would you like to take over?
Jonathan said to him, tomorrow will be the new moon and you'll be missed when your seat remains vacant. So the day after tomorrow, go down all the way to the place where you hid the other time and stay close to the Etzel stone. Now, I will shoot 3 arrows to one side of it as though I were shooting at a mark. And I will order the boy to go and find the arrows. If I call to the boy, hey, the arrows are on this side of you, be reassured and come, for you are safe and there is no danger, as the Lord lives. But if instead I call to the lad, hey, the arrows are beyond you, then leave, for the Lord has sent you away. As for the promise we made to each other, may the Lord be witness between you and me forever.
So this is the code. This is the signal, right? I'm going to shoot these arrows. And if I tell them where to go, you can come home.
All Rivera's not there.
No, well, yes, this is an arrow. What I said is if this were done today between 2 guys hitting golf balls.
CIA.
No, he'd be hitting golf balls to the guy. And he says, if I tell the guy, go get the golf balls, I know where they are. They're over by that rock. Then it's okay. But if I say, I shanked them, I don't know where they are, then you got to run. You got to go. And he says, but our pact will always be there. Will always be there. Now, again, Jonathan, we already know, has run afoul of his father before. So his father's already kind of cursed him, condemned him for going. Jonathan went into battle without permission, and Saul condemned him at that point. So their relationship, Saul and Jonathan's relationship, isn't necessarily great, but Jonathan is the heir apparent, and he's not going anywhere. This is as far as Saul's concerned, his son Jonathan is supposed to be the next king. So here's what happens in the scene. So again, as I said, it's not necessarily battle royale like the David and Goliath story, but it's what we got. All right.
David hid in the field. The new moon came, and the king sat down to partake of the meal. When the king took his usual place on the seat by the wall, Jonathan rose, and Abner sat down at Saul's side, but David's place remained vacant. That day, however, Saul said nothing. It's accidental, he thought. He must be unclean and not yet cleansed.
So first day, David doesn't show up for a party.
Dressed for the party.
He says, probably just couldn't make it. He's not clean. He's not ready to go. Not purified. So he's not there for a reason. So he knows where David's supposed to be. He's not there. You can see who's there. Jonathan there. Abner, his chief of staff, who's also Saul's cousin, is there. He'll be important for our story later on too. Interesting guy. I know it sounds like kind of a funny name today.
Little Abner. Yeah.
Abner is not a joke. In the Bible, Abner is a tough dude. He is essentially Saul's right-hand man and enforcer. It's very clear from the Bible that Abner was not a guy that you messed around with.
He's not little Abner.
No, he's not little Abner. This is a big dude. Again, Saul's a big guy. He's tall. Abner is not messing around. And you'll see Abner what Abner does later on. So he's not there the first day.
But on the day after the new moon, the second day, David's place was vacant again. So Saul said to his son Jonathan, "Why didn't the son of Jesse come to the meal yesterday or today?" Jonathan answered Saul, "David begged leave of me to go to Bethlehem. He said, 'Please let me go, for we are going to have a family feast in our town, and my brother has summoned me to it. Do me a favor, let me slip away to see my kinsman.' That is why he has not come to the king's table."
Yeah. So notice, by the way, too, that he calls him the son of Jesse. Okay? It's not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily read into that, but it probably is interesting to note that he doesn't call him by his first name. And of course, Jonathan's answer to his dad is that he's back with his own family. David went back to Bethlehem to be with his family. His family asked him to be there for the Rosh Chodesh. And I gave him permission to go, by the way. Notice that too. You know, so do me a favor. And remember, David's the youngest in his family, so it's not like he can maybe turn that away. Now, you could say he's not supposed to be away, he's supposed to be part of Saul's crew. But he does say Jonathan lies here, which is he makes up a story to save David and to test out his father. So that's the answer, right? So he says that's why he's not here.
Saul flew into a rage against Jonathan. You son of a perverse, rebellious monster. I know that you side with the son of Jesse, to your shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness. For as long as the son of Jesse lives on earth, neither you nor your kingship will be secure. Now then, have him brought to me, for he is marked for death. But Jonathan spoke up and said to his father, why should he be put to death? What has he done?
So I think everybody sees what happens here is that Saul not only sees this as disrespect and as a problem and of course he's using it as a pretext to get upset, but he says it's not just me that you shamed you're not going to be king. As long as this guy's still around, you're not going to be either. And he says flat out, he's marked for death. So Jonathan doesn't have to read between the lines. He says, Saul just said, I'm going to kill him. So flat out. Now again, who does Saul get mad at? At this stage, he's getting mad at Jonathan, right? He's already mad at David, but now he's gotten mad at Jonathan. And again, he's called him out in public. I mean, this assumedly happens in front of everybody. It happens. The last thing we heard was they're at the table. It doesn't say anywhere that Saul took him off to the side and chastised him in some other place. It says that yelled at him in front of everybody. And of course, doesn't just yell at him, as we've already noticed.
Anger management.
Your mother. Your mother.
Your mother's
is
fault.
your mother.
Your mama. Your mama. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, this is just horrific for
Your
Saul.
child.
For Saul, this is the guy who he says in the same time, "You're going to be king. You should be king." History. So it's not like there's a question. He said he's supposed to be king, and you're not going to be king as long as this guy's still walking the earth. I mean, there is no way to read this other than, I mean, the text is what it is. Saul has a murderous vendetta against David. Saul, Saul, look, this is either kingship and royalty at its worst, or it's a mafia thing.
Sounds like a
There's no other way to read this other than these are people that are willing to kill an innocent person. Because Jonathan shoots back at him. What's he done? He hasn't done anything.
Sounds like just a temper tantrum or something.
Well, but what do you do with this, right? Because what we know is what we know of. And by the way, this is why I say that if this didn't happen, somebody has a really vivid, this is either the best writing, some of the best writing of all time. I'm not joking. This is either some of the most beautiful writing. We don't have anything like this in the ancient world. We really don't. The Greek writing is not like this. It's great in its own right. And by the way, this would have taken place 300 years before Aeschylus and
But it might not have been
Euripides.
written. But we don't know.
But the point is that this sounds like somebody copied this down. Again, I could be wrong, and I'm not making this up because a lot of people that I trust have said this. This sounds like somebody wrote this down. It sounds like somebody repeated it. It sounds like somebody heard it and told somebody the conversation. Because again, it could just be really, really good writing. It could be really smart writing. Or it could be somebody who took down every piece of this to some extent to show what Saul's predicament was and what he's left with, which is he can't really condemn. He doesn't say it's my fault. He blames his wife, right?
Your child.
No
Your
personal
child.
So he blames his wife, and then he says, it's bad for you. It's not just bad for me, it's bad for you. And then he says, he's dead. The guy's dead. Do you not understand? I'm going to kill the guy. And what he essentially says to his son is, you bring him to me. Have him brought to me. You are not going to get out of this either. He doesn't say, you're done and I'll have somebody else do this. He says, you bring him to me. Have him brought to me.
Which is sort of cruel.
Of course. He says to him, I know you're on his side. He actually said it to him. I know that you're on the side, on the side of Jesse. And again, it keeps calling him the son of Jesse. It doesn't call him David. Won't call him David. So it's very powerful. I mean, again, it's either some of the greatest writing of all time, or somebody actually wrote this down and knew what he had said. Or because it doesn't just seem like, it seems like somebody really was, I mean, again, it means that somebody survived from this meal who told David this, or Jonathan told him what had happened. And then David told somebody else what happened. But it's really, really, really powerful. And it seems like, again, every element is there. Every element of the conversation of what you want to get across is in that, or in those 2 lines. It's just unbelievable.
Saul threw his spear at him to strike him down, and Jonathan realized that his father was determined to do away with David. Jonathan rose from the table in a rage. He ate no food on the 2nd day of the new moon because he was grieved about David and because his father had humiliated him. In the morning, Jonathan went out into the open for the meeting with David, accompanied by a young boy.
So we know what's going to happen, but what we didn't know was going to happen was, again, that Saul will try to kill him too. And let's just see if this note here was yeah. We've seen him. Again, the note is: did he throw the spear, or did he, hold on to it? And did he let it fly, or did he, try to spear it like that? I mean, the point is that, look, he humiliated him, but did he try to kill him? That's a little, unclear from it. When it says that he tried to strike him down, it seems as though he really did want to hurt him.
It doesn't say anywhere how many sons that Saul had, does it? Does he have a lot of, makeup sons in case he?
We'll get to that, but
Okay.
it's too late by the time we get to that. This is the guy that was supposed to be king. In Saul's mind, this was the guy who was supposed to be king. So,
Years out of
yeah, he's look, he's the problem to some extent is that he has to be a great general. He has to be a great soldier, but he doesn't seem to have any ability to do anything but kill people. And again, you can make the argument he's not good at killing people because he just tried to spear his son. He tried to spear David. He never gets these guys. But again, you can make the argument he's not really trying to kill them. I mean, he's trying to scare them. But no matter what, this is a guy that is probably scaring a lot of people. So now we're going to go through the ritual, this ritual. This is what he did.
Yeah, it's Putin.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, a lot of people in history that seem to let their power, or again, maybe just their mental illness, was very apparent.
Is your mom history?
Here we go.
He said to the boy, run ahead and find the arrows that I shoot. And as the boy ran, he shot the arrows past him. When the boy came to the place where the arrows shot by Jonathan had fallen, Jonathan called out to the boy, hey, the arrows are beyond you. And Jonathan called after the boy, quick, hurry up, don't stop. So Jonathan's boy gathered the arrows and came back to his master. The boy suspected nothing. Only Jonathan and David knew the arrangement. Jonathan handed the gear to his boy and told him, take these back to the town.
So it seems as though the sign is pretty clear. You know, it's not time for you to do it. But like, go. But watch what happens.
When the boy got there, David emerged from his concealment at the Negev. He flung himself face down on the ground and bowed low 3 times. They kissed each other and wept together. David wept the longer. Jonathan said to David, go in peace, for we two have sworn to each other in the name of the Lord. May the Lord be witness between you and me and between your offspring and mine forever.
Yeah. So what was weird about this whole setup too, and this is the end of it. I mean, this is the end of the story, which is the end of the Haftarah, is that why do they go through that elaborate ritual thing? Coming out anyways. It's kind of weird. It's like a weird story of like, well, I'm going to send you the signal and you'll know it's don't come out. Just go. And then they wind up hugging each other anyways.
Because they can't control themselves. They really do love each other.
Yep.
Does Jonathan get killed in battle eventually?
Don't ruining the story. Yeah.
Don't
was
bash.
Jonathan,
Jonathan,
they do not hang out again together. This is it. But again, this does seem to definitely have some foreshadowing here, which is, again, you know, you protect my family, which is an interesting little thing to say because the normal situation here would be when I take over as king, I'm going to kill all your family because I need to make sure that none of them ever become king.
You do me a favor, and I do you a favor.
Yeah, well, there's a real sense that, again, in Kings, when it came to kings, you know, even a nephew was enough sometimes to, I mean, I've read the story so many times and I've seen the plays but I still, I mean, if you ask me what really happened with the War of the Roses and the House of York and Lancaster, I think I know, but then I know there's Richard III and I know that then I'm like, I just forget like who killed who. And it turns out, by the way, you know, we found Richard III's body, you know, we ended up finding it in the parking lot in you know, somewhere in some parking lot.
It's curved.
I mean, they actually found his body and they uncovered it.
They fixed
No, but it conforms with what they thought about his you know, his physical situation. Yeah. So the weird thing is that you read those stories and you're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, these things, a whole different line of people would have been king, you know, if it hadn't been for this or that, and this nephew was still alive and this cousin was there. So this stuff really is important for countries. And this is also setting up for the fact that David has essentially made a pact, made an oath that he's not going to wipe out Saul's family, even if it's in his best interest to do so. Keep this in mind because, as Don said, Jonathan will die, but that doesn't mean that his kids die. That didn't mean that Jonathan wasn't protecting kids that he already knew. I mean, these kids that he has already exist. So when Jonathan talks about his family, this isn't theoretical. This is his own family. He already has kids. However old Jonathan is, we're not exactly sure. He's old enough to have had kids. David is old enough to have had kids maybe by this point too. Doesn't seem to have had kids yet with Michal.
Because he's married to Nicole, he never has kids.
Because we don't read about any kids that they have to have, which, by the way, could have been the children that would have unified the kingdom.
Yep.
Don't want to ruin that story either, but just keep in mind, he is already married, but we don't know that David's had any kids. So this is a pact that we hope will spare unnecessary bloodshed. Just keep that in mind. And again, I'm not going to say, because there's stuff that's in the Bible, as Don said, there's stuff we do know. There's other stuff that we don't know. And there's other stuff that maybe we have to read between the lines to figure out what really happened. It's not 100% clear. There are some stories that are coming up about Saul's family that are deeply troubling with our whole picture of David, which is what I said at the beginning. We don't really walk away from these stories with a picture of David being a gentle person. Let's put it that way. So they go their different ways. Let's read what happens in this story.
David then went his way, and Jonathan returned to the town. David went to the priest Ahimelech at Nob. Ahimelech came out in alarm to meet David, and he said to him, "Why are you alone and no one with you?" David answered the priest Ahimelech, "The king has ordered me on a mission, and he said to me, 'No one must know anything about the mission on which I am sending you and for which I have given you orders. So I have directed my young men to such and such a place.'"
Yeah, and again, in this case, we have a better version of this in the Qumran Dead Sea Scrolls, and also in the Septuagint, which when we add a couple of words, it comes out, and it doesn't really change the meaning of it or what you figured out. I made an appointment with my young man at such and such a place, which means they're not here with me now. I'm going to meet up with them later. Because what the problem that the priest Ahimelech sees when David shows up is that there's no one with him. So he says, "Why are you by yourself? Why is nobody here?" And that's an alarm. Sets off an alarm, is what it says. David lied.
He's on a secret mission.
Yeah, but David lied to him. But to some extent, you're going to see why he lied to him. Just like Jonathan lied, David is lying now. This is actually to protect lives. This is actually to stop people from killing. So that's what he says to the priest. Let's see what happens.
"Now then, what have you got on hand? Any loaves of bread? Let me have them, or whatever is available." The priest answered David, "I have no ordinary bread on hand. There is only consecrated bread, provided the young men have kept away from women."
What is that?
So these are priests. They have bread that is sanctified for, is like what priests are eating when they're doing their priestly stuff, which means that they're not in a situation of any kind of uncleanliness that you already kind of like read about, which is that they're not always away from women, but they're away from women while they're working as priests. Remember, this is not in Jerusalem. There is no Jerusalem. This is the priests at Nob, in a city outside of Jerusalem, not far from Jerusalem. I mean, it's not right outside of Jerusalem.
It's like a pre-snack while they're working.
It seems like it's priest food. Yeah, maybe priest snacks, but it doesn't say snacks. This is food. He asks for food. So I got to get some food. And he says to him, "I need food." And the priest basically says, "Well, I got food, but it's the priest food. It's not food for you."
In reply to the priest, David said, "I assure you that women have been kept from us as always. Whenever I went on a mission, even if the journey was a common one, the vessels of the young men were consecrated. All the more then may consecrated food be put into their vessels today." So the priest gave him consecrated bread because there was none there except the bread of display, which had been removed from the presence of the Lord to be replaced by warm bread as soon as it was taken away.
Yeah, so this is lechem panim, which is the word that's used right here. We translate as bread of display. Sometimes translated as showbread. This is the bread that was left out on the table, on the shulchan, on the table for God. But God didn't eat it. It was out there for God to look at and to be happy. God would be happy looking at this bread. eating on a keto diet.
How long was
So
it?
I have no bread.
God likes the smell of fresh baked bread too.
Listen, this kitchen, so when we walk past the subway, and we're feeling good. You really can't. I can't, you can't, whatever. You have.
Say Toros?
No, so the subways are everywhere. Anyways, you just feel when you smell bread, but you can see that as soon as there's new fresh bread that comes out, they get rid of that bread. So the show bread is out there. What do they do with it normally is an interesting question. They toss it, do they not let people eat it? Do they let the priests eat it? It seems as though, this was special bread that priests ate. It was left out for God. I mean, this is not your normal bread. This is not the normal snacky bread. This isn't the normal snacky bread. This isn't the normal kind of bread that they would put out.
Who would bake this bread?
Now, assumedly, the priests themselves, right? There were priests who made this bread who also, again, had not come in contact with women. What's interesting, of course, is that David kind of lies again, in which case, I mean, we don't know the
We
last
don't know
time.
that he's lying.
We don't know the last time he's been with a woman, but he didn't, he's not really on a secret mission. So the whole thing he fabricated, he's already telling a lie. So he's just going with it, that this food is,
And my,
I'm
and my
okay with
boys
this.
too, my crew also.
yeah,
has
he's
been.
don't.
We're
Well,
fine.
there are no guys yet, but when he sees them, yes, the assumption all here is you priests are okay. Don't worry about giving us this bread because we're in that same
clean.
pure status that you're in. Again, it's important to know that look, he needs food. These are people he can trust, and to some extent, as you're going to see, he also feels that if he does this, well, I don't want to ruin it. So, I'm not gonna say anything about it. So let's keep going.
Now, one of Saul's officials was there that day, detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg the Edomite, Saul's chief herdsman. David said to Ahimelech, "Haven't you got a spear or sword on hand? I didn't take my sword or any of my weapons with me because the king's mission was urgent."
Yeah.
Boy.
So David is saying, David, now I need some weapons, Where's that gun I left here, right? Do you have a gun here?
You have
No.
one lying around.
So he is gonna ask for food and for weapons. Now, he also lies and says, this is a tough one, right? Because he's on a secret mission, but he didn't take it. Well, he says, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to get it. Now, we already heard the important piece of information that's already been left for us as the reader. The narrator has already given us a very important piece of information, which the Doeg who works for Saul is there when this is happening, which means Saul has eyes and ears in the place while this is happening. And the guy's actually called out. We already know who he is. So you look here. Why is he there? Because he's not allowed in, because he's an Edomite. He's a descendant of Esau.
So he's the snitch.
Maybe. So again, here is his title is Abir HaRoim. And the word Roeh is shepherd. So maybe he's in charge of the shepherds, and he's in charge of that part of the economy for Saul. Again, he's an Edomite, which means he's not an Israelite. He's the son of Esau, son of Isaac. He's related to us, but he's not. He's an Edomite. Which shows, by the way, that the Edomites were working with us then. There was at least one that was working with us. Look, you already can see this is a problem. This is a problem. Now, again, we can blame the fact that he's an Edomite, which is what the rabbis do. But I don't know that it really matters. The fact is that he's not a snitch. He's actually doing his job.
Yeah.
Right? He's not a traitor. Well, in effect will be, but he's doing his job. He
He's an
works for the king.
investigator.
He's in the power. He's
Yeah.
in the power structure. He's doing his job.
Yeah.
I will just tell you, that's not the way he's read by other people, because he's David. He's the one who's been informed.
Kind of like his intelligence office.
Yep, this is not the right people, the people you like, but he's not a mole, he's not a spy, he's doing his job. So David says, give me some weapons.
The priest said, there's the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you slew in the valley of Elah. It is over there, wrapped in a cloth, behind the ephod. If you want to take that one, take it, for there is none here but that one. David replied, there is none like it. Give it to me. That day, David continued on his flight from Saul, and he came to King Achish of Gath.
So he took Goliath's sword, the sword that it said we read about, and he took it and he put it away for safekeeping. And now he took it back. So he took the Goliath sword, and he's like, yeah, there is no sword like Goliath's sword. So now the irony is, there's a lot of irony here, is that David's now fighting with Goliath's sword, not with a sword that's an Israelite sword. He's fighting with a Philistine sword. And that's very powerful, that imagery of fighting with the Philistine sword, with his number one opponent in the Philistines, the guy who brought him all his fame. He's fighting with that guy's sword.
And this is probably a better sword, right? This would be an iron sword.
It's probably a huge sword, right? It's probably a giant sword. Was, again, when David was younger, he didn't even feel like he could pick up. I mean, he did. He cut off Goliath's head with it, but it says he gave it back. He turned it over to his.
But the Philistines were the metal makers, weren't they? So
What?
they probably had a better, stronger blade.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's
Sword.
got a super weapon.
Yes, so he has a very, very powerful weapon. He has the biggest gun around, if you will. This is literally the guy saying, I killed the best gunfighter in the world, took his gun. I shot him with the gun. I gave the coup de grace with the gun. That was his gun, by the way. And I put it away. And now I'm taking those guns back. So in the Clint Eastwood version of this, this is the guns that he took from Lee Van Cleef, or whoever the bad guy was during. No, I'm talking about the Western. I'm talking about the spaghetti Western. It was usually Lee Van Cleef. And he would take, he would kill the guy, and that was usually the way the movie ended. But in the next movie, if he took those guns, then he would take those guns and now he's got to fight with them. And of course, the irony doesn't stop there, because as Don just said, Don, what about Gath?
That's where Goliath came.
Yeah. Goliath is from Gath. He's the Philistine representing Goliath of Gath. That was his name. So now where is David going? To the very place that Goliath came from. Gath, one of the 5 Philistine cities. So now he's fighting with Goliath's sword and goes back to the king of the Philistines of that city. So each Philistine city had their own king, Gath being one of them, Gaza was one of them, Ashdod was one of them, Ekron. These cities are the cities of the Philistines. So he shows up now. He's showing up.
That's
What
a big gun.
you're
Then.
gonna say when the Israelite who killed Goliath comes to town?
Sort of.
Achish said
Read what happens when he shows up at the court of king. I'm telling you, this story is so amazing.
That's when they said this.
Well, he had said it already.
This
Here's
really-
what they're repeating it. All right, read it.
This
Read
really
it.
is rubbing salt.
The courtiers of Achish said to him, why, that's David, king of the land. That's the one whom they sing as they dance. Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands. These words worried David, and he became very much afraid of King Achish of Gath.
Yeah, so first of all, they say, they repeat what we already read in the last chapter, or chapter 19, where
They did say
David, it says that when David walked around, the women would say, Saul's killed thousands, but David's killed tens of thousands. The song that they would say, that was the phrase. That's what he lived by.
That would make sense.
Yeah, Saul was mad about it. The Philistines were really mad about it, because the tens of thousands that they were killing were the Philistines. And so they say, this is the guy who's made a reputation from killing our people. And David is there amongst them, and they're saying this in front of him. And David's like, yeah, maybe I got a problem here. Maybe I miscalculated who I can go to. So now again, he's going to the only place that Saul can't get him. He went there because Saul can't get him here for his own safety. But did he go from the frying pan
Right,
into the
that's what I'm
fire?
thinking.
He's literally looking at these people going, yeah, they know who I am. And they know what people are saying about me back at home. They know it. They know it. So what does he do? What's he gonna do?
So he concealed his good sense from them. He feigned madness for their benefit. He scratched marks on the doors of the gate and let his saliva run down his beard. And Achish said to his courtiers, "This man is raving. Why bring him to me? Do I lack madmen that you have brought this fellow to rave for me? Should this fellow enter my house?"
So what does he do? He pretends like he's crazy. He pretends like he's gone crazy. Maybe this will work. King Achish says, I don't need more crazy people. I got a lot of crazy. We got enough crazy Philistines. Don't bring them here. So he says, don't bring this guy to my house. But here he's got a guy where he's thinking, oh, and by the way, if you notice, he said David is king of the land.
Yeah.
David is not king of the land. Saul's king of the land. And they know who Saul is. But they realize that David is already really powerful, really well loved, is already heir apparent, or again, maybe just he's there. So what happens?
David departed from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. And when his brothers and all his father's house heard, they joined him down there. Everyone who was in straits and everyone who was in debt and everyone who was desperate joined him, and he became their leader. There were about 400 men with him.
Yeah. So his first act is to go to the Philistines and see if that'll work out. Doesn't seem to work out, at least not yet, or at least not that version of the story. He gets out. He gets out by pretending to be crazy. Well, then what he does is he goes into hiding. And who does he have join him? He has his family, and he has other people join him, who are people who, as the translation is, are in straits. Mary, what does the King James say? What's the words for that? Verse 2.
It says, and everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him.
Yeah, so, think about what that means.
Malcontents.
People who are in debt, people who are on the run.
Interesting how that may have some recollection today.
Yeah. What kind of people are going to encircle him are people who have nothing to lose. People who are already on the outs, people who are marginalized, but also people who are maybe have, maybe brought some of this on themselves if in some cases, but it doesn't really matter. Where they're at now is they have no other place to go. And this group is attracted and comes to David, and it says there is a leader. And they say it's about 400 people. Now, again, that doesn't seem like a lot, but 400 people to some extent could be enough to have a small army, right? It's not 40 people, it's not 10 people, that you just have a little platoon, a little group, a little raiding party. 400 people is enough that you have to sustain those people. And assuming that if they're all men, there's a lot of people that are depending on you. And it sounds a little bit like Rob. It sounds a little bit like Rob. And that these are people that are probably, again, the word that we have here is desperate, dire situations that are in trouble already.
Sure.
Got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You got nothing to lose by being part of this band. And David is their leader, it It says that David is their leader. Here's what it says.
David went from there to Mitzpeh of Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, "Let my father and mother come and stay with you until I know what God will do for me." So he led them to the king of Moab, and they stayed with him as long as David remained in the stronghold.
Yeah, so he's hiding out, but David recognizes that his parents are older, obviously. They can't do this. They can't be out on the run. His family, and it says his brothers are a part of this, where he went to his brothers right away. Because his brothers are probably dead meat as well. But his parents are too old to be hiding out in caves or out in the forest or out on the run. So he goes to Moab and he says, to the king of Moab, which is on the other side of the Jordan River, you take care of it. Now, needless to say, part of the conversation will be, when I become king, believe me, it'll be good for you.
Refugee the king.
Yeah. Yeah. And Moab is a nation that maybe Saul was at war with. So we have many cases where people go to the enemy and the friend. So this is a little bit of that. And he gets he has these favors, and we have them a lot in the Bible. When there's a revolt against David has a son you might have heard of named Solomon, right? And Solomon winds up being a pretty difficult king for a lot of people. In the fact that he makes a lot of people build cities for him and does things that we really only read about one other place. And we'll get to it when we get to the Book of Kings. It's pretty much like the Pharaoh. Same words are used for Solomon, I have to tell you. He's a great builder, but that meant a lot of people were building for him and not being able to take care of their own work. Terrible taxation, terrible building, terrible burdens placed on the people.
Sound like King Herod was, wasn't
Oh
it?
yeah, it's a lot like King Herod, and it's a lot like, again, and everyone can come up with their modern equivalents for that as well. But what happens is that David in Solomon's time, there's a guy who starts a revolt against him named Jeroboam, and Jeroboam goes down to Egypt, and the Egyptians sheltered Jeroboam in a very famous scene that we'll get to soon. This idea of Israelite Jewish people fleeing the country and finding security and sanctuary in a place and then coming back, this is not, I mean, it's obviously in other cultures and other traditions as well, but it definitely exists in the Bible. And what's interesting about this one that I will remind you of, we haven't read it yet in the Bible because it's in the book, it's in the Ketuvim, it's in the book of Ruth. David's part Moabite, right? His great grandmother's Ruth. So he had Moabite connections. This isn't a weird thing. It's not as weird as you think, because his family is part Moabite. Ruth was from Moab. So he sends his parents back. A lot of people don't talk about this. There's something problematic about it because the Moabites here really served an interesting purpose here to save David's life. But we don't generally like the Moabites in the Bible. They're not. So there's a difficult problem here with this because on one hand they save David's life here, or David's family's life, shelter and protect David's family, but on the other one, accepting of the Moab. So and
to be his ancestor.
yeah, but it's interesting how we don't. It's not talked about a lot. David we don't talk about it. The fact that his, this is we don't talk about the Ruth connection a lot. We don't have it. As a matter of fact, if you didn't have the book of Ruth, you wouldn't know it.
How did they know?
You wouldn't know it
So
from
was it
Samuel.
possible that they
They could trace it. Sorry.
They invented it.
that they put Ruth there so that it gave her, if you will,
Look, the theory about how Ruth came into the Bible is that it was one of those books that was included so that Jews wouldn't feel superior. The book of Ruth was added by, because the Ketuvim, the writings, were added fairly late to the Bible. How late? The Talmud says that they're still arguing about it during Rabbi Akiva's time, which is 60 years after Jesus. So the Ketuvim is still not agreed on until that. So that means like Song of Songs. I mean, we know the books existed. We know that people were familiar with them. It's just they hadn't been canonized, right? So we know that. We also know that they were in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Every book of the Ketuvim is there, except for the book of Esther. But we know that the books are familiar, and the Psalms were around. Jesus quoted the Psalms. They're all over the Dead Sea Scrolls. So we know the Psalms were important. We know that they were used. But we also know that Ruth was probably one of those books where we include it, not include it, and we kept it. The book of Tobit, we didn't keep. We didn't put it in the Bible, but it was maybe not even older. I mean, maybe not even. It might have been older. It might have been from the same time as the book of Ruth. Similar kind of feel to it. By the way, when Jesus talks about the Bible, he calls it the law and the prophets. He says the Torah and the Nevi'im. He doesn't say the Ketuvim. He says, I came here to fulfill the law and the prophets, the Torah and the Nevi'im. So the Torah and the prophets had already been agreed on. The Ketuvim wasn't agreed on. So when you see that in the Bible, you know, in the Christian Bible, you know that they're referring to the absolute truth, which is that we just didn't have a Tanakh. We had a Tan, Taf, and a Nun. We didn't have a Tanakh. We didn't have the last part, the Ketuvim. So look, we won't know. We don't know whether the established tradition of Ruth being David's ancestor was, number one, something people talked about, wanted to talk about. But the author of the book of Ruth obviously had no issue putting it in and having it there. So I will tell you, David had other wives that were not Israelite. Know their names. We know where they came from. It didn't seem to be an issue. But people feel somewhat uncomfortable with the fact that David found refuge for his family, at least among the Moabites, and we're not done yet. It gets better.
But the prophet God said to David, do not stay in the stronghold. Go at once to the territory of Judah. So David left and went to the forest of Herath. When Saul heard that David and the men with him had relocated, Saul was then in Gibeah, sitting under the tamarisk tree on the height, spear in hand, with all his courtiers in attendance upon him. Saul said to the courtiers standing about him, listen, men of Benjamin, will the son of Jesse give fields and vineyards to every one of you? And will he make all of you captains of thousands or captains of hundreds? Is that why all of you have conspired against me? For no one informs me when my own son makes a pact with the son of Jesse. No one is concerned for me, and no one informs me when my own son has set my servant in ambush against me, as is now the case.
So Saul says to his people, well, first of all, David is told by one of his prophets, one of his advisors, if you will, one of the people that he trusts, don't stay here in Moab. You have to go back to what God wanted to do, which is why the prophet is the one who says it, and why David is not supposed to be in this place. He's supposed to be back with his people. So he goes back to Judah. But when Saul hears this, when word gets back to Saul, Saul is in Gibeah, which is his territory. It's where he came from. It's his territory of Benjamin. He basically says to the people there, as you saw, do you think things are going to be better if King David is king? Do you think you're going to have any power when King David is king? He's basically telling them, you know the power will shift to Judah. You know what will happen. Of course, he's still calling him the son of Jesse. He will not call him David. He's only calling him the son of Jesse. And he says to him, are you going to get taken care of if he becomes king? I mean, they literally, the what's at stake here, and the way that, if this is not kingship, then it's very close to mafia. which is what do you think is going to happen to your territory, right? What do you think is going to happen to your, your numbers? What do you think is going to happen to your, to your racket? What's going to happen to your stuff? And he's saying it to his crew. He's saying it to his inner circle, his family, if you will, the tribe of Benjamin. What's going to happen to your stuff? It's all gone if David becomes king. So again, you can say, yeah, well, he's a king and these are knights and this is, but to me, this sounds much more mafioso than it does kingship. It's so clearly not about anything other than their own financial stake, right? It's not close to, hey, think about the responsibilities that you have for the people. Think about your leadership. Think about, I mean, he says to them, you'll be captains of thousands, captains of hundreds, but that's really only the military aspect of it, which is again, just more power. It's more your crew, your next, if you're Papa, you have this crew, but there's no sense of, think about our responsibilities to the people, think about our responsibilities to God, think about that I'm the king and that I have this, I'm doing God's work. I mean, there's nothing like that at all in this. And of course, it gets back to Jonathan. My own son, I can't trust. He's still humiliating his son. He's literally taking this opportunity to humiliate Jonathan. And notice he doesn't even call him this. He doesn't even call him Jonathan. He's my son, but he says he doesn't dignify him by saying son. It's very much a situation where you can see how, and I just think that the power of this, the reality of this, is the fact that there isn't even an attempt to try to like, look, if we weren't trying to keep the sense of what happens here, it would just say, my own son makes a pact with David. But it doesn't. The fact that it even keeps the son of Jesse, that it doesn't just simply say, think of all it will lose if David becomes king. Very powerful. And again, did somebody repeat this to David? Was it well known? Did someone who survived this? Because who survived this? So here's what happens. Here's where he pops up.
Doeg the Edomite, who was standing among the courtiers of Saul, spoke up. I saw the son of Jesse come to Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, at No. He inquired of the Lord on his behalf and gave him provisions. He also gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Thereupon the king sent for the priest Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, and for all the priests belonging to his father's house at No. They all came to the king.
Now, if you've never read this before, what do you think is going to happen to Ahimelech and the rest of the priests?
And Saul said, listen to me, son of Ahitub. Yes, my lord, he replied. And Saul said to him, why have you and the son of Jesse conspired against me? You gave him food and a sword and inquired of God for him, that he may rise in ambush against me, as is now the case. Ahimelech replied to the king, but who is there among all your courtiers as trusted as David, son-in-law of your majesty and obedient to your bidding, and esteemed in your household?
So Ahimelech, when confronted by these accusations, or it's not accusation, what happened. When Doeg informs, tells what happened, what's his answer? What are you talking about? He never told him that he's on the run from him. He's not playing dumb, maybe he is, but all he's doing is telling him exactly what he thought happened, which is that I didn't know. I thought he was trusted. He's your son-in-law. He actually reminds him of that. Somebody actually had the courage, maybe knowingly. Why would I not do that? He's your son-in-law. Now, it could be that Ahimelech knew at this point that it's not going well for him. First of all, he's being brought there, assumedly not on his own accord. He's being taken there, and he knows maybe that this isn't a good situation. He knows enough about Saul to know that Saul's a little crazy, but a little crazy. But he says to him, what was I going to do? What are you telling me? I mean, he's one of the most trusted guys in your court. And so he puts it back on Saul. You trust him. You gave him your God. Keep going.
The first time that I inquired of God for him, I have done no wrong. Let not your majesty find fault with his servant or any of my father's house, for your servant knew nothing whatever about all this.
I don't normally work for him. It's the only time I've done it. And here's what Saul
But
said.
the king said, you shall die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house. And the king commanded the guards standing by, turn about and kill the priests of the Lord, for they are in league with David. They knew he was running away, and they did not inform me. But the king's servants would not raise a hand to strike down the priests of the Lord.
Yeah, it's. I mean, they're tough guys, right? We assume, but they're not about to kill priests. And I mean, Saul actually says, "Kill the priests of the Lord." I mean, it's not a great way of getting people to kill the priests of the
Kill
Lord.
these guys.
By remind, yeah, kill these guys, please. Kill these guys who are aiding David. Again, he's definitely gone. I mean, Saul is now, yeah. So the other Benjaminites say, we're not doing this. Say, we're not doing this. We're not going to kill. We're not going to touch these guys. So what do you think is going to happen if you haven't read this before? What do you think is going to happen? Who's going to do it? There's really only two possibilities. There's two possibilities.
Thereupon the king said to Doeg, you, Doeg, go and strike down the priests. And Doeg the Edomite went and struck down the priests himself that day. He killed 85 men who wore the linen ephod.
He's the royal pit.
And
Yeah.
he's not Israel.
The stew.
Keep going.
He put No, the town of the priests, to the sword, men and women, children and infants, oxen, asses, and sheep, all to the sword. But one son of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, escaped. His name was Abiathar, and he fled to David.
Wow. So that's how the people of Nob, the priests of Nob, were wiped out. They wiped out a whole town of priests. Everybody. Killed the men, 85 of them, and then they killed everybody else. And Doeg did it. Doeg the Edomite did it. So it helps to have a non-Israelite amongst your people because he's not afraid of priests of God. He doesn't worship God. So he did it. He killed them all. And again, it reminds us a little bit of the story we just read in Genesis last week. With Shechem, where Shechem was wiped out by Shimon and Levi. They went on a killing rampage. At least there they saved the women and children and the stuff. But here everything gets wiped out. It's a horrible story. It's just one of the most frightening, horrible stories in the Bible. Town of priests that gets wiped out. Everybody gets wiped out except for one of Ahimelech's sons, Abiathar. Guess what Abiathar becomes? David's priest. He's David's priest. And the loyalty that he's going to have to David. And again, to some extent, it's because of David that his dad and all his brothers, and all his family were killed. Right? So he could blame David for it. He could hate David for it. But instead, what does he become? He becomes one of David's most loyal followers. This is the story also of now who becomes David's priest. So what we're left with is Abiathar becomes an important person in the story later. I can tell you. He becomes a figure. The introduction of Abiathar to us here is very powerful. And what happens to Abiathar in his life? So we don't know a lot of his life, but what we do know is pretty well. The story, again, is very violent, and it's not over. This is not the end of the violence and brutality, the murder that happens in this story. It is a very, very violent story. You just think for a second, the people that were wiped out here. It is most likely that this really happened. This is not an imagined story of Saul's vengeance. And you can imagine what it's like to be a survivor of that type of horrific murder. That's important to remember about Abiathar. Yeah, you can imagine, this is a priest now who is the last surviving priest of this world.
Something so horrific as this would surely precede him wherever he went. You could never get away from it. Could you?
Nope, and I will tell you that what happens to Abiathar at the end of the story, at the end of his story, is a tough one.
How does he pronounce it?
Abiathar. Abiathar. So, yeah. So that's the guy who kept that story alive, I guess you could say. He's an important guy in the story. We don't know everything about him. Again, there's probably a great story about him. That if we had the whole story of Abiathar, that would be pretty wild. It'd be a great story, but here we go.
When Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord, David said to Abiathar, I knew that day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would tell Saul, I am to blame for all the deaths in your father's house. Stay with me. Do not be afraid, for whoever seeks your life must seek my life also. It will be my care to guard you.
That's a pretty powerful statement again on who he was. Because that's why he's a complex guy. Because he says, I take responsibility for their deaths. He doesn't just say, blame Saul, which he does. We know that. It's, I take responsibility.
If biblical people or people today were perfect, there would be no need for God.
No, of course.
I mean, they have to be flawed.
But here, David takes responsibility for it. He says, I saw Doeg that day. He's basically saying, yeah, I know how this happened. But to some extent, he knew he was risking Ahimelech's life. He knew it from the moment. That's why he lied. It was because he knew that Ahimelech was risking his life to do this.
It would be a sin of omission. I don't know
Yeah.
that he lied to you.
No. But he tried to spare his life. But he knew that this was what he knew. The reason he did that was because he knew what Saul would do if he found out. Right? He was trying to save his life, and he failed. Basically says, Doug was there. He told him, I did this.
Basically, I knew I was setting you up.
Yeah, but he did, and he says, I didn't want it to happen. I tried not to have it happen. That's why I lied in the first place. If I didn't care about them, I would have told him what I was doing, or I would have told him to be careful, whatever. Look, he's blaming himself. He's taking responsibility for this.
Yeah.
What he did is he says, I am to blame, and I will take care of you. Whoever seeks your life must seek my life too. I'm protecting you. You're under my protection. I think I need to show you something before we start this next chapter. We'll finish with a little bit. I think I need to show you what happens to Abijah. I think I need to show you. This is a kid, or won't be here on that day when we get to it.
Yeah.
So David is old at the beginning of the book of Kings. He makes Solomon his son. And we'll get to that, or I want to skip through that all through that. It says King David said, "Summon me the priest Sadok," and they come and they make King Solomon the king. Okay. Now David made Sadok a priest, and that is Solomon's priest. Solomon now has a priest. Now there's another son, right, who's Adoniah. Adoniah is an older brother. He's older than Solomon. And he is the king, he is the heir apparent until Bathsheba screws everything up and makes her son the king. So Abiathar is still around. And here's what happens is David's life is coming to a close. So he's made Solomon the king. He said he's going to be the next king. He's put his own people, a new generation to be with him. And here's what David says to his son Solomon on his deathbed. Going the way of the earth, be strong and show yourself a man. Follow the rules, follow the commandments, the teachings of Moses. Beautiful, right? In order that you may succeed in wherever you turn. Keep the Torah. Beautiful. Lord will keep a promise. Your descendants will walk faithfully. Hopefully this throne will never end. And then he says, further, you know what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me? And Abner, what he did to Abner, Saul's chief of command, how he killed him. Make sure you kill, make sure you kill Joab, my cousin, my chief of staff for the last 40 years. Make sure you kill him because he can't be trusted. And you remember this guy who took care of Absalom when he was there. You make sure you kill him too, because I said I wouldn't kill him, but now you make sure that you kill him. Kill that guy, because he aided my son Absalom in the revolt against me. And so he tells people that these are the people who are going to die. And
Sounds like the Godfather.
This sounds like a god.
so when I'm telling you that when David basically says these are the people you're going to kill, I want you to see this. So to the priest Abiathar, the king said, "Go to your estate in Anatot. You deserve to die, but I shall not put you to death at this time, because you carried the ark of the Lord for my father David, and because you shared all the hardships that my father endured." So Solomon dismissed Abiathar from his office. And so when David dies and there's the cleaning of the house, Abiathar is also kicked out. And he actually says to him, because you didn't support me, because you supported Adoniah, my brother, I won't put you to death, but you deserve to die. This is the guy that David told, I'm going to protect you your whole life. As long as I live, you'll be okay. But now he's dead. And his son, the new king, Solomon, just said, I should kill you. This is the way Abiathar goes out. Not killed, but told you could be killed. You're done. Get out. And this is what happens when a new dynasty takes over. But in the moment when he gets called in front of Solomon, Abiathar thinks his life is over. So when I read about Abiathar's family being wiped out, and David protecting him, and now I read how close he was to being killed, when David died, and all the other orders that David sent out for him to be killed. That's the beginning of the Godfather movie, actually.
Yeah.
When Michael Corleone
Absolutely.
kills all of the people that were the threat to the family, to his stuff. He kills his own brother.
And this was what, the end of the house of Eli? They were all the house of Eli?
This is the end of, that is the end of, that's the end of the whole priestly dynasty. And a new person, Sadok, took over. That is the ancestor of the Sadducees. Every priest from then on is a descendant of the Sadoki, the Sadducees. So where does it happen? It happened in a crazy side of which king you decided to pick. And one side, one priest took over. And this happened during times when kings and priests and popes were decided by which king was in power.
Yeah, it's like the whole scene in the Godfather movie.
Yeah, this is how power is solidified.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful to me because, number one, I really think it happened. And I don't think these stories are made up. I mean, the story, why do you preserve a story like this? Like, who does this make look good? I mean, the fact that David's own court people kept these stories alive tells you that David didn't care. I mean, it's not he didn't care. He was okay with it. He was okay with people knowing what he did, which to me is just further why I love David, because he didn't whitewash it. He didn't throw it out. His descendants, I think he told them, keep this story. He says to his son on his deathbed, keep the laws of the Torah, keep faith, do the right thing, and kill these people. In the same time that he's trying to instruct his son in goodness, he's literally giving him the hits. This is the people that you have to take out.
That's one of my favorite scenes in The Godfather is the
Yeah.
juxtaposition of the
In
baptism.
the church.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's what this,
Yeah.
I have to think that they based it on this.
Yeah.
I have to think they based it on the beginning of the game.
It's so
Yeah.
graphic.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because by telling people, look, it's why these stories they resonate, because they realize that somebody can have these different aspects of themselves, and it's part of who they are. David told people, tell my story. You could tell the whole story. Tell the people what I said, and I'm okay with the fact that I also told them to take these people out. I don't know what else to tell you, that it's here. You can't make this up. That's why I don't think it was made up. You can't make it up. And why would you make it up? And why would you make it up to put it in?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. So when people tell me, did this really happen? I think it happened.
Because it doesn't make anyone look good.
No.
That's right.
No. Samuel, but I just had to show you that this is a BSI. We don't know a lot about him. I don't want to make it seem like we know that much about him. We know enough about him. I don't know. It's kind of.
But he's the last of
That family.
of that family.
Uh-huh. All right.
Because the-
Yeah. All the priests, all the Kohanim that come after are descendants of this priest of Sadok, which was the priest that Solomon David told him to kill. We don't know that like no other priest survived. I mean, that's not what it said. And the Sadducees become powerful. Of course, the Sadducees end up becoming, groups within the Sadducees. You have the Ian, later called Maccabees. They're one family. They're actually not so often. So as the priests grow, and as there's more and more, every succeeding generation, the families get bigger and bigger. The priestly dynasties have rivalries. So the fact that they're all descendants of Sadok doesn't really matter because then there's too many of them. And then there's too many of that line within that line. So it was not a good scene for the priests. They divided it up so that each priestly family had their own time there, but it just got too big. Too many people, too many priests. All right, so let's read what happens to David after this scene of the priest being wiped out and the one guy left, survivor. Yeah.
David was told, the Philistines are raiding Keilah and plundering the threshing floors. David consulted the Lord. Shall I go and attack those Philistines? And the Lord said to David, go, attack the Philistines and you will save Keilah. But David's men said to him, look, we're afraid here in Judah. How much more if we go to Keilah against the forces of the Philistines? So David consulted the Lord again, and the Lord answered him, march down at once to Keilah, for I am going to deliver the Philistines into your hands.
Yeah, so David is told to do it. Guys come back to him and say, no, I don't think we should do it. We're already outnumbered here in Judah. And David goes back to God, and God says, no, I will do it. Don't have to worry about it.
It's interesting that David takes the shewbread and God is not angry at him. Like if Saul had done that, I mean, one of the things of Saul, right, is he made his sacrifices and he did the things of the Lord.
Yes, but he didn't do the exact opposite yet. All he's doing is going back to God saying, are you sure about this? He didn't do the exact opposite of what God had told him to do, or he didn't do part of what God told him to do. It's like, God, I'll do this, but are you sure you want me to do this? Because the people are really worried that it's going to get even worse for us if we do it. And so, David's willing to go back and check, which is different than disobeying or not quite following the directions.
Yeah.
One more time. Are you sure, God? Are you absolutely certain about this? Because things are not good for the Judites right now. We are dealing with Philistine forces all the time. So again, you can see that for whatever is happening, the Philistines are definitely still a problem for us. We read that Saul is fighting with them all the time. Interesting question. Does Saul let them raid the tribe of Judah more than the other tribes, right? So maybe they attack the Benjaminites, his tribe, or maybe he has a pact with the Philistines saying, you can attack Judah, but don't attack us. Don't attack the north. The people of Judah are definitely feeling the Philistines more. Now they're also on the border with them more. So, that's really where the fighting's happening. But
Well, right. This is why they want a king in the first place, because the Philistines are so strong in attacking them.
yeah, but remember, it wasn't just the Judites that came and asked for a king. It was all the tribes that wanted.
Right.
It was not just the Philistines, right? It was the Ammonites, it was all the surrounding enemies. Right now, we're left with a guy who is David is like not even sure. So here's what happens in that battle.
When Abiatar, son of Ahimelech, fled to David at Keilah, he brought down an ephod with him. Saul was told that David had come to Keilah, and Saul thought, God has delivered him into my hands, for he has shut himself in by entering a town with gates and bars.
So Saul knows about it. Saul hears about this battle going on, and he's going, great. I'm going to be able to capture David easy now. He's literally put himself into a place where I can attack him. He's not hiding out in the forest anymore. He's not in a cave. I can go out and get him right where he is because he's coming out in public. So again, it says that, I don't know why it says it's not, there might be something missing, but the bottom line is he brings the ephod. He brings an ephod. Is there more than one ephod? It seems like that. It doesn't say he brought the ephod with him. It says he brought an ephod with him.
Didn't the priest wear an ephod? I thought every priest had one.
It is worn, right? It's somehow attached to the garments, but
Yeah.
it's something that we don't really know what it is, which is why we translated it as that. We don't know what it looked like exactly, but it is some part of the priestly things that they hold, or they can have in their hands, but they also can, it seems like it's attached to their garments.
Like an apron.
Maybe some people say it's an apron, right? Some people say it's actually like an apron. Other people say it's some kind of
That's
object
what I
that
heard.
hangs on the
But
apron.
it says it's linen.
What?
One of these.
Yes, it did. It says a linen
It's
ephod.
a linen ephod.
So there definitely seems to be linen as part of it, but it doesn't
Could there
seem
be
like,
two kinds?
maybe, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's definitely can be attached. It's made somewhat out of linen, but there's like metal on
That's
it.
why
It's like-
the Masons wear those
Yep,
aprons.
Yep. So the Masons have a FO version, and it definitely seems to at least be partly cloth, but there seems to be something on it that's more than just cloth. But we don't know, which is why we always translate it as FO. We don't translate it as apron. We don't translate it as, you know, any picture of it is kind of like speculation. We don't know what it looks like. The Bible doesn't tell us.
Saul summoned all the troops for war to go down to Keilah and besiege David and his men. When David learned that Saul was planning to harm him, he told the priest Abiathar to bring the ephod forward.
So he has the ephod, right? He has an ephod. He has some kind of priestly
So there's just one.
gear. No, we don't know that there was one. That's the
This
thing.
reads as if it's one.
Okay, but well, here it does. Here it says the ephod.
Right.
Here it says the ephod. The earlier one says an
And
ephod. It says he brought an ephod with him, or he brought ephod with him. There's no the, but it's a piece of holy object that he has. Obviously, it's important. It's not the ark yet, as I showed you later on. It shows that Abiathar had the ark with him, and that was with that was really important. That he was with David with the ark. He was in charge of it.
He's now got a lack of priests, right? Saul has still just killed this whole town of priests with ephod, wherever.
Yeah.
Maybe the only one he could find was Avatar, who had an ephod.
Yeah. Well, I partly showed you that because this is Abiatar's first priestly stuff, right? His whole family's been wiped out. He's the only priest left in his family. Fine. And now he's got an ephod. Now again, as I showed you later on, he's in charge of the whole ark. But right now, this is what he's got. This is all he's got. But at least David's got something. He's got some
It's
part.
just interesting. Saul has killed everybody else out, but now he's okay. He wiped his family out and everything, but he needs a priest.
We're gonna get there. Don't worry.
Okay.
And David said, "O Lord, God of Israel, your servant has heard that Saul intends to come to Keilah and destroy the town because of me. Will the citizens of Keilah deliver me into his hands? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord, God of Israel, tell your servant." And the Lord said, "He will."
Yeah. That's not a whole lot. It says, yeah, he will. So he has this whole thing. What's that happen? Oh yeah, he's gonna. How about what do I do, God? How about more than just he will, really?
David,
Yeah, he goes, oh, he's coming. Oh yeah, he's coming. He's coming to get you. Okay, what do I do? What is that? This is not what I wanted to hear, God.
David continued, "Will the citizens of Keilah deliver me and my men into Saul's hands?" And the Lord answered, "They will."
Okay, yeah, check that off, too. Yeah, they're coming to get you, and they're going to turn you over, and they get there. So that's all he tells them, right? It's very like, okay, what do I do now, God? So here's what happens.
So David and his men, about 600 in number, left Keilah at once and moved about wherever they could. And when Saul was told that David had got away from Keilah, he did not set out.
So David gets out. He says, okay, I can't stay here. And God doesn't really tell him what to do, but he has enough information to get back out on the run. So now he's up to about 600 knights, increased by 50% his forces. He's now out, and he's now out on the road again. He's not able to find any safety there. So where does he go?
David was staying in the strongholds of the wilderness of Judah. He stayed in the hill country in the wilderness of Ziph. Saul searched for him constantly, but God did not deliver him into his hands. David was once at Horesh in the wilderness of Ziph when David learned that Saul had come out to seek his life.
So these are the stories of David on the run, which is what I said today is David on the run. That's what
And Saul's son Jonathan came to David at Horesh and encouraged him in the name of God. He said to him, "Do not be afraid. The hand of my father Saul will never touch you. You are going to be king over Israel, and I shall be second to you. And even my father Saul knows this is so."
wow, so they have another meeting. They have another meeting, or at least in this version they do. And Jonathan says to him, you're going to be king. I'm going to be your second in command. And even my father Saul knows this is the man. Don't worry about it. I'm never going to let him get to you. Right? He doesn't quite say that. Basically says, my dad never get you. He says, so never, my father Saul would never get you.
And the two of them entered into a pact before the Lord. David remained in Horesh, and Jonathan went home.
So wait, so there, it seems like they made another pact.
Right.
Like a whole lot of pacting going on here. It also could be a different author who has a different version of this, which is, this is where David and Jonathan made their pact. And in this pact, Jonathan seems to think that he's going to still be around when this happens. We didn't get that the first time. The first time they make a pact, we don't get that they're going to still be around. He's going to still be around. So this is a pact that they make again. So here's what happens now.
Some Ziphites went up to Saul in Gibeah and said, David is hiding among us in the strongholds of Horesh at the hill of Hachilah, south of Yeshimon. So if your majesty has the desire to come down, and it will be our task to deliver him into your majesty's hands. And Saul replied, may you be blessed of the Lord for the compassion you have shown me.
Right. So the Ziphites, the people of Ziph, say, hey, if you come down and get him, we'll turn him over to you. So people are informing on David. It's not like David has support of everybody. This is a town that is willing to give him up. I'm going to ask you a question. Where's Ziph? Where is it? Take a guess. Where do you think Ziph is? Is it a Judah place or is it not a Judah place? It's a Judah place. It's in the tribe of Judah. It's not far from Hebron, which means that David wasn't even safe in his own tribe. So he's in his own country. He's in his own state, if you will. He's in his own place. And even there, he's not safe. The people are willing to turn him over to Saul. They tell him, look, we'll keep him here. You go get him. And Saul says, may you be blessed in the Lord. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I wonder if this isn't the story of powerful peoples that they engender so much adoration and so much hatred. It's just not, it seems that's sort of part and parcel of power or.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine, since we have this, and David knew this, the people of Ziph just chose a side, even though they're his own people. Not a good thing probably for the people of Ziph later on when David would become king. Probably not going to get a whole lot of building projects. Or probably not going to get a whole lot of
No federal money.
thrown their way. The people of Ziph just made a big mistake. Shows the wrong horse, if you will. So let's read what happens to these folks.
Go now and prepare further. Look around and see what places he sets foot on and who has seen him there, for I have been told he is a very cunning fellow. Look around and learn in which of all his hiding places he has been hiding, and return to me when you are certain. I will then go with you, and if he is in the region, I will search him out among all the clans of Judah.
Yeah, I don't care. Wherever he is, I'll find him.
They left at once for Ziph ahead of Saul. David and his men were then in the wilderness of Maon in the Arabah to the south of Yeshimon. When Saul and his men came to search, David was told about it, and he went down to the rocky region and stayed in the wilderness of Maon. On hearing this, Saul pursued David in the wilderness of Maon.
Yeah, so he leaves that area, Ziph. He goes to this area in the Arava, which is the Judean desert. This is out in the really inhospitable and uninhabitable parts of Judea. This is not where people want to be. These are in areas like where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. This is not where you want to be. And this is where he's hiding out. In the Rocky region. That's what it says, the Rocky region. That is the word Sela, which is a word we usually use for rocks. Maybe, it sounds like it makes sense. The desert, wilderness, Midbar. So here he is, out in the middle of the wilderness. Let's read what happens. This is what we'll finish up with today.
Saul was making his way along one side of the hill, and David and his men were on the other side of the hill. David was trying hard to elude Saul, and Saul and his men were trying to encircle David and his men and capture them. When a messenger came and told Saul, "Come quickly, for the Philistines have invaded the land."
So he's about to be captured. They're on opposite sides of a wadi, of a river. He's on one side of the hill, he's on the other. You can see this being played out in Israel, but you can also see it being played out in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere out in the wilderness, or Nevada, or whatever. You can see that in a Great
It's
Western,
valid.
right? You can see it in a Western where the guys can see each other on other sides of the hill, but you have to go down and then come back up in order to get them. So you can see them, but it's not so easy to get to them. How are they going to get them? And as what about as they're about to capture them? Come quickly, for Philistines have invaded the land. So finish up.
Saul gave up his pursuit of David and went to meet the Philistines. That is why that place came to be called the Rock of Separation.
Yeah, machlokot, machloches, which is a separation. It's dissension. It is, you take that side, I'll take that side. It's how a place got its name. So next week
It was a ruse, I assume.
yes, no, it says that it's really good. It's really good timing. David caught a break. There's going to be a few of those, and next week we're going to pick up the story of David on the run and in Gedi, which is one of the places that we usually try to go to when we go to Israel. In Gedi, the oasis in the middle of the Judean desert where David hid out from Saul. So Rosemary, thank you for reading for us today. Next week we'll come back with David and on the run, and then we're going to get into the final confrontation, the final meeting in the coming days. So everybody, look forward to seeing you either tomorrow night for our Torah study. It was reading the story of Benjamin, the birth of Benjamin, and we read about Dinah last week, which was pretty tough to read. And then we'll be back. We don't have in-person service this week, but we'll have Purim the following week, following Wednesday. So I hope we'll see everybody for Wednesday, and then one of our next TBA speaker series on the 20th. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up. So everybody stay good, stay ready, get ready for Purim, and we'll see you soon, everybody. Thanks for being here today.
Everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.